Good morning and welcome to Rosebud Homestead. Next week is Thanksgiving, and I have been reflecting on the many, many blessings that I have and our family has. And it has caused me to think again about things that we have learned during this pandemic. We're now 9 months into the pandemic. Many people are still hunkering down. We don't go out at all, except to go back and forth to work and to stop at the grocery stores. We don't eat out at all. So I'm still doing a lot of cooking. Jim is still helping. One of the things that I have been thinking about, though, as a result of this pandemic is, how quickly our supply chains were disrupted to the point where in this country we saw empty shelves in grocery stores like we have not seen for generations. And if this is not a wake-up call for us, then I don't know what is. To understand that life as we know it can be disrupted so quickly, and the supplies that we normally count on picking up at the drugstore or the grocery store may not be as readily available. And if situations were to get worse, and in fact, society as we know it may shut down, and we would have to live on what we have stored, what we have put away, the food we have put away, the supplies and whatever, how many of us would be able to really do that for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, longer, a year maybe? I don't know. It's caused me to think a lot and to readjust about some of the things that we are putting away. One of the things that I have worried about for quite a while is the idea of, would we get tired of eating the food that we have put away? I have a lot of grains put away, a lot of canned foods put away. Is there enough variety there? And so as I was thinking about this week, knowing that we are coming into winter, which is citrus season, I got to thinking, what if we could can some citrus? And I know you can buy Mandarin oranges canned in the stores. So I looked in the USDA guidelines book, and sure enough, there is a recipe and a process for canning citrus. So yesterday on our way home from work, we stopped at Costco and Jim bought what we thought were cuties. These are the little Mandarin oranges. And last night, because I don't ever make a video or in my professional life teach a science methods course without first practicing the demonstration or the experiment that I'm going to be showing students. And so last night I wanted to just try it to be sure, and so I canned 1 pint of these Mandarin oranges. And this jar was sealed just fine. It isn't now because we opened it up. I wanted to try these for breakfast, and we did. But aren't these pretty? Are these just gorgeous? And so you all are familiar with the cuties. We got these at Costco, but the thing of it is these are not cuties. And even though it says easy peel right on the label, they lied. So I will give you the hints that we did with this, and we'll get started in just a moment. I think it would be a thrill to have some canned citrus out on our shelf for a break, and it looks so beautiful and it's full of vitamin C nutrition. And so here are, in this bowl, nearly 40 peeled Mandarin oranges. Now I want to show you a couple of things about what happened with this. I was so used to the cuties that the peels practically fall right off. These did not. This is a different type of Mandarin orange. They're still fairly easy to peel, but ultimately I went to my good old standby of scoring the peel. Now what you don't want to do with these is that you want to try to not break into the flesh because you don't want those juices leaking out as you're canning them. But just scoring them like that made these quite a bit easier to peel. And I got better at it as I went along. I have never quite peeled this many mandarin oranges at one time. And so I figured out a couple of techniques that I'm going to share with you besides the scoring. And when you score and peel like this, for those of you that have watched our video on candied citrus peel, you can also use these peels for candied citrus peel. So this is then how it is peeled. Now, one of the things that I learned with these mandarin oranges is, even though these are quite sweet, all of the white on here represents pith. And so you want to get as much pith off as you possibly can. Get the white stuff off. And so this is a little grapefruit knife. I've demonstrated this before on some of our videos. It's very thin and very flexible. And so I go after the white spots. I loved the taste of those that I canned last night that we had for breakfast this morning. They tasted almost like fresh. Jim said they tasted a little bit, what term did you use?
Spicy, something like that. I don't remember. Something like that.
Yeah, it was
definitely a little different.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've got to think of that term. Not quite like fresh. They were just a little bit more strong in taste. And that strong taste comes from the pith. Now, what you want to do is pull all the strings off as possible. So this takes just a little bit more effort than it would if you were going to just peel and eat one of these. Now, the other thing is, in the USDA book, they suggest canning slices. And by doing the slices, you can cut into the sections and you can get rid of the membrane, because it is the membrane that gives that little bit of bitterness, that bitter taste. The other thing, you can can these little mandarin oranges because they're so small. You can can them whole or half. Now, you may notice that I did these in halves, and that's what I'm going to do today too. But if you want to do them in whole, the other thing that you want to do is you want to get rid of that center pithy cork thing that goes right through the middle. And I was not able to pull it out. Sometimes in oranges, you can just grab a hold of it and pull it and the whole thing comes out. Well, it doesn't in these. It did in one out of 40 that I've done. And so I just stick the knife in there and do a little corkscrew thing and it comes out. The other thing is that you want to make sure, if you're going to do it whole, you want to be able to see through the center and get everything out of the middle. Gives a new meaning to the term tunnel vision. What?
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision.
Yes, yes. We said it at the same time.
We did say it at the same time. So this one's now ready to go. So sometimes when you peel, it gets almost everything off that you need on one side. And then on the other side, there's still this whiter stuff. And if you can get lucky and grab an edge of this, sometimes it comes up in sheets, bigger sheets than those. But you get the idea here. And so just kind of scraping along the edge and pulling up. I don't want to break through the membrane, so that's what I'm trying to be careful about doing. But being able to get the membrane off is pretty important. Now, because I'm going to break these in half and do them in halves, I don't need to go into the center on these, because once I break them in half, I can remove that center piece that is kind of bitter. But I want to get this just as clean as I can. And this one has been sitting out for a little while, and so this has dried, making it just a little bit more difficult and taking a bit more time. And then I wanted to show you here, this is, I'm going to try one more time to pull the center out. So I'm going to loosen it on this side, just by cutting in a little bit. It's connected, it has little stringers to every one of those sections in there. So this may or may not work, but I'm going to give it a try. Nope, not working. That worked for me once. Well, I don't need to worry about it, so I'm just going to take some strings. If you get up here at the top and kind of brush across, you can pick up some more of the strings. All right, these are ready to go. So let's go right into putting them in the jar. Now, of course, these are very high acid. And look at these cute jars that I'm going to use. These are pints. Jim and I picked these up about a month ago. We were camping up at Bryce Canyon, and we went down to Tropic and checked at that little favorite hardware store that I like to go to, and they had blue jars, which I've already demonstrated. We put, what do we put in those? Oh, pumpkin chunks. And then these little squatty pints that nobody would buy, that I'm going to put the mandarin oranges in. So I'm just going to break these in half, and then this is what I'm talking about, this center pith part that you want to remove on both sides. Pull more strings if necessary. And then I like for the outside to show to the outside edge rather than the inside edge. So I'm going to just make sure when I put them in there that I've got the outside edge facing out. And in that tall pint, I was able to get 5 mandarin oranges. So we'll see how many this holds. Now you would think that because the volume is the same, a pint is a pint, that I could also get some 5 in here as well. But sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way, depending on the arrangement of the volume. So that's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. Now that's plenty of room in, oh sorry, that's plenty of room in the top. So I might just try to put at least one more half in. As long as it doesn't come up and touch the top, which it does. All right, so it looks like I'm going to be able to get 4.5 in these jars. So I'm going to finish filling these jars and then I'll bring you back at that time. I ended up using 41 tangerines. I had to peel another one, and so I have an average of about 5 per each jar. I finished these 6 are ready to go in. I wanted to show you how I finish up. Now I'm going to fill these jars with a little bit of syrup. You can use water. I do not recommend it. Citrus can be a little bit sour from time to time. We remembered what Jim's word was. He called it tangy. And I've tasted a few more, and they're not quite as sweet as usually the cuties are. And so I've made kind of a cross between a very light syrup and a medium syrup. I took 6 cups of water and about 1 cup of sugar. And I just heated that on the stove until it was boiling. I did that about an hour ago. And so it's sort of a medium syrup because these do need just a little bit of sugar. Wiping off the rims, putting the lids on and the rings. And here's our last one. I don't have air bubbles in this. I may have this one just a little bit too full of syrup. I haven't found very many air bubbles. Okay, I think we're close. One of the things that I did, I even broke these halves in half to be about quarters to fit down in little cubby holes in the jars. I don't want anything sticking up above to where it's going to prevent the lid from sitting down tight. Okay, this one is going to go. There we go. Now, this is, of course, high-acid food. I'm going to do it in just one of my regular pots right here in the kitchen. So I'm going to bring that pot over and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, because when I use a regular pot, I do a couple of things that you need to remember to do if you're going to do it just in a standard pot on your stove. So I measured earlier to be sure that these would fit in here. Now this one does not have a rack that goes in the bottom, but I have several racks, and so I'm just going to try one. Now, I can put it this way or I can put it this way, either way, just so long as the jars do not touch the bottom of the pan. Now, I'm going to choose to put it this way first, so I'm just going to put that down in there. And this water is room temperature water. I'm doing that on purpose because the oranges themselves are not hot. The syrup has been sitting out for an hour. It's not hot. And so I just want to be really, really sure that as these things start to boil, they are going to be, everything is going to come up to a boil at the same time. Now I'm putting another rack in there because this is going to give me room. Make sure I don't have anything. Oh, there, it's lifted up right there. There we go. This will give me room to have the boiling water come up over the top of all jars. And it's going to be very full. I'm going to dip a little bit out here. Oh, I didn't mean to splash that. So everything is going to be brought up to boiling. The oranges, the syrup, the water, everything will be brought up to boiling at the same rate so that we can be sure that these oranges are going to be cooked completely through. And then the USDA says that these need to process for 10 minutes at sea level. Now, we're not at sea level. We are at 5,000 feet. And according to the tables on the USDA, I have to add an additional 10 minutes. So these need to be submersed in boiling water. I have 2 layers. It works just fine. If the water is boiling, it will get everything. So once these get to a boil, I'm going to time them for 20 minutes, and then we'll be back when we're ready to take these out of the canner. Here's the last one from the canner. Now, you may have noticed that I have 2 pots on the stove, and that is because once I got the big pot over there full with 8 jars, it was very apparent that a good strong boil would just boil water out all over the stove. So I took the top layer off of 4 jars and put that in my 6-quart Dutch oven, and then I did it in 2 pots instead of just 1. But the results are the same. They look absolutely beautiful. I'm so excited about these. Not only will they just be beautiful on our shelves, but what a lovely treat they will be in times of emergency when we're needing a lift and some good strong flavored food. A nice fruit has vitamin C in it. Now, a word about the vitamin C. Cooking deteriorates vitamin C. Vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, and so it's going to be washing out a lot of that vitamin C into the water. So, and even then, the heat will deteriorate it somewhat. It still has vitamin A, it has fiber, and so it still is very nutritious. The taste is wonderful, but as always within our emergency supplies, we need to for sure store vitamin C tablets to be sure we would have enough vitamin C in times like this. So this has been a really fun project for us. I hope you enjoy it, and think about doing some canning of citrus for your pantry shelves. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.